Good evening and welcome to this month's Town Administrators Report. I'm David Wash Jr. and with me is our Town Administrator, Stephen Maio. Hello, Steve.
Hey, David, how are you?
Good.
I am not on a lake in a sunset somewhere. This is the, thank you for WCAT for accommodating us and doing a Zoom meeting today because of the, easier for me to get around a little bit. And I think it fit everybody's schedule. So the modern science, the wonders of modern science. We're off and
as much as we don't like it, sometimes it does come in handy. It's
yeah,
not as good as an in-studio experience,
absolutely not.
but we'll live with it for this month.
Absolutely.
What we're going to talk about today is the upcoming regular town meeting, which is on Saturday, November
6th.
6th.
Yep. 8 a.m. at the Charbonneau Fieldhouse at Wakefield High School.
And we're basically going to do the same thing we've done the last two town meetings. We're going to have in the field house and also for those who are more comfortable outside under a tent.
Correct. And that there'll be accommodations there. There'll be an ability to check in outside for those who don't want to come in at all. We're also looking to make sure that we have a much more robust audio system and video system, and someone to take a look at for those that may have a hard of hearing, to give some sort of a a written crawl or something like that so people can see what's going on a little bit better. So we're trying.
Yeah, might be easier inside than outside for that particular thing, but we have coming up 9 articles, and I'm going to skip Article 1 and take that at the end of the program, but we do have a number of articles that will require votes on raising money. Article 2 being the first one, Board of Assessors to use free cash.
Yes. So this is an article that, boy, this will be I think my 14th town meeting, regular town meeting, presenting this article. And what it is that, we have to have a balanced budget, and we have to have our balanced budget approved by the Department of Revenue. So what we've been doing all summer is saying, hey, we know that our tax levy, which is the real estate taxes that everyone pays, is going to be X. We know that we anticipate we're going to receive so much more money in other local receipts, whether that be restaurant receipts, meals tax receipts, tax receipts from hotel, motel, building permit fees, excise taxes that you pay on your car, what have you. We know we're going to receive that money. And we have to make sure that all of the things that we did in the spring, all of the budgets that we passed in the spring, can be paid for. And those numbers have to actually balance. And so if we're going to spend, let's be very simplistic, if we're going to spend $100 to run the town of Wakefield for fiscal year 2022, we're going to have to raise $100 or have $100 available. So the finance committee and myself and the town council, we do look at all of those items, particularly what we're going to get with local receipts. And that's been kind of tricky the last few years because of the pandemic. Last year, restaurant receipts were way down. Not as much as we thought, though. We actually did a pretty good job. I call it the Wakefield factor. People went out to the restaurants and got takeout, and that really helped us a lot. But no one was staying at hotels. So, hotels might count for $600,000 a year in taxes coming into hotel taxes coming into the town. That was zero, basically, because no one was staying in hotels. So, we have to take all those factors in event, but we also have this pool of reserves over here. So what we're saying is that we're not going to completely count on the economy rebounding as much as we'd like, although candidly, I think it will. But if it doesn't, we're going to fall back on free cash. So we have about $8 million in free cash, which the state certified on June 30th of this year. We're going to use about 2.5 of that, 2.5 million, to balance the budget. So we're all within Proposition 2.5. All of the budget items that we approved at the last town meeting will be done. So if you're keeping score at home, you're going to say, well, Steve, that's going to drop us back down to 5.5 million free cash. Yeah, it is on paper, but I'm going to say more money is going to come in over the year. More money, departments will return money to the town at the end of the year. I think we'll be back up around that $8 million mark again, if not even maybe a little bit higher at the end of the year. So this is an annual article, puts a lot of spinning in your head on it, but that's basically what it is to balance the budget. And as we go forward and we forecast for the next few years, we're going to certainly, slowly bring our receipts up to, where they were pre-pandemic and beyond. So you're going to see that this article, I'm predicting the amount really shrinking. I think our free cash will stay the same and increase, but this, carefulness that we're playing this year won't be that way in the next few years. And people say, well, Steve, why are you doing it at all? Well, we're doing it because the Department of Revenue that needs to approve everything isn't going to like it if I say, well, we based last year on $7 million worth of local receipts other than taxes, and this year we're basing it on 9. That's a huge increase in somewhat of an uncertainty, giving the Delta variant or the subvariant of the Delta variant that they're talking about now. So that's kind of a roundabout way to saying we're very good, we're very strong financially. We're going to count on using this money here, although I think that we'll get more behind it. Pretty convoluted stuff, but it's the stuff that we on the FinCom love to talk about.
Absolutely.
Very boring, dry meetings, I'm sure.
And following that, Article 3 is appropriating money for the public safety building project.
Yes. So this is being sponsored by the Permanent Building Committee, who is the entity in charge of the public safety building. And this is quite simply because, a few years ago, we came forward with a plan that got delayed due to a questioning or a vote made at town, a vote to negate town meeting action. We then had to go back in, and then the pandemic hit, or we were in the midst of the pandemic when it came back again. Costs have escalated due to supply chain issues, due to labor issues, craziness. They're telling me about 30%, which will all be presented at the meeting. So frankly, to build a building that would have cost us, $2.5 million less 3 or 4 years ago, because of the cost of those factors going to increase. So if we want to have a public safety building that meets the requirements of modern policing, especially handling the issues, with mental health issues, we really need to, retrofit that building, not to mention the HVAC system, and some of the other issues there. So that will be a bond issue. It'll require 2/3. We're just going to add that to the bond. It's going to add about $70,000, $80,000 a year to the bond payment. So that'll be mixed in, but that's an important issue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And unfortunately, especially with what's been going on for the last 18 months, it's hard to avoid increased costs at the moment.
It is, and I think it's trickling down to everything. Even saw a story last night. So even, Christmas toys, there's a shortage of Christmas toys for the kids. So get them early, and those prices have gone up too. So nothing is being spared.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Article 4 is I think going to probably cause quite a bit of discussion, and that is approving the cost of replacing the Northeast Metropolitan Regional Vocational School building.
Yes, and this is the same article that is going to be voted on either by town meetings or by city councils in 11 other communities in this area. So there's 12 communities that go to the vote to build a new vocational school, and I like to think of it as Wakefield's second high school. just up the hill there. It's a $317 million price tag. Of that, $140 million will be paid by the state through the school building program, leaving the communities, roughly $170 million to handle.
Right.
So every community needs to vote on this. This will be split by each community on a per capita basis. So every student going to the Voc for the construction cost will be paying the same. So if there's 1,100 students or 1,600 students, I think it'll be 1,600 that's billed for, whatever that bond payment is, you can almost divide that by the number of students annually and then multiply it by how many students you have in your community. And that's your community's portion of that. This is something that won't occur for another 3 years. The payments won't be due because it'll have to be built and the bond, will be staggered. We are working that into our forecast to be paid for. Again, it'll be within 2.5. So unlike the Galvin school, which it was a debt exclusion, so it was a tax above 2.5, this will be within our regular tax levy. And we're probably looking at somewhere in the area of, based on our current student population, which is 100 kids are at the Voc right now, or were there last year, it's going to be around $800,000 or less a year to build the Voc. That's Wakefield's. Now, the caveat to this is that there is a request in to the governor's office to use 100 million of the ARPA money, because the state has a lot of ARPA money, the American Rescue Plan Act, and the town council endorsed this, to use that to go and pay for part of this, the construction of the Voc. Because although the SBA is great about, reimbursing, costs, and it's well over 70, I think about 76% of the vocational school costs are being reimbursed.
Yeah, 76 and a fraction.
76 and a fraction. The problem is that it's of costs up to a certain square footage amount. So because a vocational school costs more to build because of all the technical equipment they need and the fans and the shop rooms and things like that.
Sure.
And where the SBA is adhering to a lower square footage cost. So all of those increases in cost through the supply chain and inflation and what have you, and that is they're not covering as much as we'd like them to. This is a great equalizer to all the communities out there, this $100 million. There are actually 3 technical schools being built right now. All 3 of them are asking for $100 million through the governor's office. That plays out, that dramatically drops that amount to every community, because some communities like Chelsea, which sends maybe close to 300 kids or more, or maybe 200 plus, they're going to pay a lot more. They're going to pay a lot because they have that many kids. Saugus has a lot of children there. Revere, Malden. These communities are going to pay a lot because they have more kids, and they should. That's the formula. But it's a lot of money to come out of those communities right now.
Right.
In every year. So this will really help take the sting off, and that'll really help us. So I think a lot of questions are going to be, well, Steve, this means we're on the hook for $317,000. Well, no, that's the entire cost.
Right. 317 million.
317 million. Okay. 370.
Yeah, we wish it was 317,000.
We do. Remember, those were the good old days, right? But every community is at the same, every community will have the same language. The language is actually approved by the School Building Association. So it's a little daunting. It might take a little bit of explanation. There will be vocational school personnel. I expect the superintendent there to talk about this article. But I personally, as someone who lives in Wakefield, I think it's a great, it's a great move. I think that they have a great plan for the new building. And when I think of all of our kids that go there, 100 a year, that get trained in HVAC work or electric work, plumbing, carpentry, those jobs they're coming out and getting great jobs and making very good money. So I think it's an important program. That building is, more than 50 years old. It served us well, and it just is not serving us what we need to do in the future. So I think
Right.
I think it will have some discussion, but I think it's a great opportunity for us in
Oh,
Wakefield.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, as you say, a lot of kids from the local area have come out of that school and excelled in their professions.
Oh, and you see them all the time. I mean, you see them, you know, out in, you know, in all walks of life and all communities here, having a great job, you know, having great families and be able to provide great for the family. And guess what? They all were working all during the pandemic. You still need plumbers and electricians and HVAC people, maybe even more. So, great opportunity for people. So,
Both
I'm
of my
hoping-
younger brothers are Voc school graduates.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
hoping
have
that
done very, very well.
yeah, I
Yep.
tell you, the town council, there was a presentation to the town council by the vocational school personnel, and they were all unanimously in favor of it. So I think it's a it's a good deal for our young people.
And we don't need to go too much into depth here on these two, but we have two for the library. One is a new contract
Yep.
for Library Staff Association.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
the other is supplementing their budget.
Right, and I can talk on both of these very easily. So we just couldn't get the library union contract done by the time we had the town meeting in May.
Mhm.
Very shortly after that, we had it all done.
Mhm.
And basically, it is the same contract from a cost of living increase percentage that the other unions enjoyed. Trying to keep that all the same, you know, lowering that to 2.5% for the next 2 years, 3% for the year that we're in. Exactly the same as all the other unions that I negotiate with on the town side have. The cost of Article 5 is around $30,000. Certainly nothing that's going to break the bank. So that will be, of course, added to the budget. So all those, you know, valued union personnel can get paid. Article 6 really is, we were betwixt and between when we did the budget in the spring, whether or not we were going to return the very popular Sunday hours. And we didn't really know what was going to happen. So I think we have a very much better feeling now about where we're going. You know, people want to get back to the library. The Article 6 will fund Sunday hours.
Mhm.
And, you know, that is also around $30,000. So it's no big deal. I think both of those should be fairly benign and well-deserved. And, you know, people love going to the library on Sundays. And I think particularly maybe some of the college kids that want to go study somewhere a little bit different. Maybe they're home and they want to do that. But, you know, we have a wonderful library and we should have it open more than less. So
I agree. I agree. And Article 7 actually is going to assuage some people's ire over train whistles.
let's hope.
And
That's to assuage people yet. So
that's in addition to road sidewalk drainage, that's also going to fund quad gates at Broadway so that we're in compliance with the FRA requirements for quiet zone.
right. Part of, you know, we are in compliance right now for quiet zone. I mean, we've kind of been through that, right? So everything we've done now, we are all set, and our quiet zone is in place for the next 3 years, okay? But a lot can happen in 3 years, as we know. And, you know, there could be, you know, incidents of crash, God forbid, but we've had a number of them in Wakefield. They could change some of the standards, which they've done in the past at the FRA. So for the Broadway crossing, the best solution for that long-term is the quad gates. And for those that don't know what quad gates are, quad is 4. So you have 4 gates come down. So both sides are blocked when the trains come through on both sides of the tracks. Right now you have like this thing going on, right? So you have
Right.
like
Alternating, right.
Well, so technically people have gone around that to try to beat the train. Imagine that. But it has happened, and it happens more often than not. It happens all over the country. So quad gates are rated much safer. So amazingly enough, quad gates for the Broadway crossing are probably $1 million plus to put in. Amazing that they cost that much, but that's what it is. So we actually have through I always try making Senator Moulton or Representative Moulton a senator. I say that all the time. Congressman, he probably likes it. So Congressman Moulton did put in the transportation bond bill on that, which was passed by the House, you know, $1 million plus earmarked for Wakefield for the quad gates. Okay. Yep. And this has been supported by our Senate delegation, both Warren and Markey. So if this gets through Washington, hey, we have that. But there are some other things we'd like to do on Broadway. We want to make sure that we can, and although National Grid needs to pay for the repaving of the road in areas that they disturbed, there's some areas on Broadway that they didn't disturb that we would like to maybe have better sidewalkscapes on and what have you. So this article number 7 is going to kind of bring all that together. It's going to probably be around the $400,000 range to supplement, if we need to, any of the quad gate requirements, and to have a much better streetscape, you know, sidewalks all the way down, new sidewalks all the way down Broadway, even areas that weren't touched at all, but maybe a little bumpy. Let's and granite curbing everywhere. Let's make a nice gateway into town, no pun intended, in that area. And I think that, you know, it is true that that neighborhood, you know, did bear a big brunt of both having the crossing closed and had a lot of work on it.
Right.
Wasn't the easiest street to go through for a lot of reasons. Utilities underground everywhere, drainage going through. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel there, and it is not a train coming the other way to hit us. So I think we'll be, I think that's well-deserved for that area.
I agree. And solving the problem once and for all, I think, is going to make a lot of people happy, or hopefully it will.
Right. And to answer one question, I don't know. There may be a couple of days in there where there'll be work on the tracks, like there is work on the tracks down in Greenwood. So you may hear a whistle, but that's way down the road 3 years. And it won't be like it was for days and days and nights that we had.
Yeah, I could tell from the sound of the whistle exactly which crossing the train was coming by at the time. You know, 8 is just a name change on the general bylaws.
Yep.
And 9 is repealing a zoning bylaw section. Which zoning bylaw is that?
So this is a bylaw that requires, and this is a citizen petition, by the way. If you are building, and I think it's within 50 feet, but I'm not sure, of an open stream, you not only need to go to the Conservation Commission because you are more than likely in the wetlands under the Rivers Act, but we have a bylaw that it also requires a Board of Appeals variance because you're building that close to the river. This right here is an attempt by this citizen to appeal the variance for the at the zoning board. It would still leave the Conservation Commission regulation intact. So like any zoning petition, this goes to the town council, who refers it to the planning board for a public hearing. I think the planning board's public hearing on this is the 26th of October, and the planning board will make a recommendation to town meeting, and will require a 2/3 vote, whether to repeal it or to leave it as is. So we'll, you know, with any, often zoning articles bring a lot of discussion as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that one. And Article 8 is just changing the name. I think that the Commission on I think it renamed the Commission on Disability Issues.
Just the Commission on Disabilities,
which is probably a little bit, of a better name, I think.
Yeah, kinder.
Odd phraseology.
Yes, kinder name.
David, you don't like any change to the charter, so maybe that came out of that. So maybe you can, although that's not a charter change, maybe you can embrace that one.
I don't have a problem with that one, really. Article 1 is going to start off, and that's going to be the town administrator presenting a report on the fiscal year 2021 budget, which closed June 30th.
Right, and this report is, the accounting of the report, I should say, is on the town website, has been for a while. You can take a look at it. And really, it is a, it is an accounting form on each department, how each department lived within their budget or did not, items that they maybe returned money to the town.
Yep.
Meaning, that, if a department does not spend all its money, then that money goes back to the town, goes back to the general fund. Or maybe there were some items that got, we call carried over or rolled over to be spent after June 30th. And that could be that the auditors couldn't get in. So they come in on, but we have the money that we were going to pay them in the budget already. So we just roll that money over and we pay them next year. It could be that, for instance, on the IT department, information technology, they were going to do some wireless access points at the school. And a vendor was coming in to do that. The vendor couldn't get it done by June 30th. So that got rolled over to after June 30th to pay for that. So this report actually goes through town, department by department, on how they did from the town council's department, my department, to DPW, to police, to fire, to schools, to buildings. And you can actually go through and see how each department did. And my philosophy and the certainly the finance committee's philosophy has been, and I've talked to my department heads about this, is that, don't feel that you have to spend all of your money or we're going to cut your budget next year. We certainly look for trends, but if you returned, let's say, $6,000 in materials and supplies out of a $150,000 budget, that doesn't mean next year we're gonna cut that, because a lot of things could have happened. So, and I think that where some managers maybe go wrong is that they send the message to the department heads that they are going to lose that.
Right.
So, what happens is that they'll go out at the end of the year and they'll say, we've got, $6,000 in the supply account. Let's go out and buy a bunch of supplies. And they end up having, reams of paper that might go bad because it's going to be there for so long, and stacks and stacks of paper clips drive me crazy. So there's no reason to do that. So it is a real good snapshot of how we did overall and how we all managed the budget. And, I got to say that once again, the department heads did a great job in managing their budget. And, in an odd year, because it was kind of in the midst of COVID. So, certain things didn't get done, certain programs didn't get done, maybe, a lot of overtime and some of the, things didn't happen that didn't have to happen. So, the town returned, department heads returned, $1.4 million to the bottom line. That goes back into the free cash account that we talked about, replenishes them. And I guess something to think about, if you want to really draw some crazy dots, is that, all right, last year we returned $1.4 million to revenue. We're looking to use $2.5 million in free cash to balance the budget this year. So really, it's only 900,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or 1.1 million. I'm sorry, 1.1 million. So it's it's to me it's one of those items that I talk a lot on, because I've pared that down over the years because I can see the eyes glazing over. We're there to answer any questions or what have you, and
you don't want to put the crowd to sleep before they get to the important articles.
Although I think this is pretty important myself. So
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. And so on that note, just as a reminder, Saturday, November 6th, 8 a.m., the gavel goes down.
8 a.m. the gavel goes down. So get there early. You want to get checked in. I think it will be, people have been great at town meeting. It's your chance to participate, your chance to ask questions, your chance to, take part in the purest form of, government that there is, an open town meeting. And it always, each town meeting has its own personality. So, which is pretty evident after the first article. So
Sure.
we'll see who shows up and what personality we have that Saturday morning. But it'll be good. And I anticipate that it'll be Saturday morning. I don't think you'll have to spend the whole day there. Although you certainly can, if you wish. You know,
You want to hang out and socialize afterwards, have at it.
And, you know, we've had, the field house has worked out pretty good during the pandemic. It allows for more spacing and everything. But I got to say, I hope this is the last one. I hope we're at a point we can go back to the Galvin. It's much more comfortable. It's much more acoustically pleasing. The
Better chairs.
better chairs, the projection is better, and it's much easier for WCAT.
Absolutely.
So,
And on that note, we're going to close this month's show. Thank you, Steve.
thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next month.
Take care. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.